Our speaker this morning is Hayley Gable. Hayley is a four-year student from Gilbertsville, PA. She is a co-captain of the varsity field hockey team. She is the proud sister of Dylan Gable and the proud roommate of Reese Coleman. Hayley.
I thought before I'd started today, I'd share a fun fact about today. Today is actually National Love Your Red Hair Day. Thought that was fitting. My entire life, my parents have told me, be the best Hayley you can be. During my younger years, kindergarten, pre-K, and before, I had no trouble with the concept. I was bubbly, outgoing, and I was friends with everyone. Second grade, I changed schools, and I changed as a person as well. I went from a small progressive school where the expectation was that everyone learned at their own pace to a crowded public elementary school where the expectation was that everyone needed to learn at the same pace or catch up quickly. I went into second grade not knowing how to read and having never been to public school before. I'd never even been on a bus. The culture shock came and went quickly, but it took pieces of the original Hayley as well. Going from a school where everyone knew your name to a school where you were just your student ID number was really hard on me. I went to a separate classroom 3 times a week with 2 other classmates to work on my reading, and by the winter of my second grade year, I was going for math as well. Being singled out because of my academic struggles took a huge toll on my confidence. It had never crossed my mind to compare myself to my classmates before that year. My parents had meetings with the school, but it was decided that testing wasn't necessary because I was coping. And the once huge gaps between my classmates and I were now much smaller. The issues I was having in the classroom were excused as a lack of focus and being over-emotional. ADHD in girls is much more likely to go undiagnosed, as studies have shown. When we think of ADHD, we generally think of rowdy younger boys, normally the class clowns and the troublemakers. However, the signs and symptoms of ADHD can vary greatly. For example, the signs of inattentive ADHD can present themselves as a lack of focus, speaking loudly, being unorganized, tics, interrupting people, or a derailed train of thought. If undiagnosed, these signs can lead to far more serious side effects, such as a lack of confidence, anxiety, depression, and in certain cases can develop into OCD. The phenomenon that was the Lost Girls is something that I had never heard of before the summer of 2020. Since elementary school, I've always struggled with confidence and anxiety. I could go up to a group of adults and speak to them without a second thought, but my peers were a different story, especially in a classroom setting. I could present projects and speak publicly, but talking in small groups to classmates is something I still struggle with. When I walk into a room, I immediately size up its occupants. From there, I decide who I find intimidating and who I don't. The people I find intimidating, for whatever reason, I begin to worry that they're judging what I say and do, that my answers are wrong, or that they'll think whatever I say is silly. The anxiety really began to ramp up in 6th grade. I would make myself so worried about math class, I would feel sick. I would cry and have mini panic attacks while getting ready for school dances. I'd hyperfixate on small things like the bumps in my ponytail, distracting myself, unable to focus on anything else. I always thought that I was just very type A, tightly wound. As it turns out, I actually have inattentive ADHD. When I found out, my first reaction was, "Are you sure?" I knew little to nothing about ADHD. So when I got home that day, I began to investigate. It was then that I discovered the Lost Girls. It's not an alternate reality to Peter Pan. It's the name given to the thousands of girls that go undiagnosed every year. The diagnosis was like one massive aha moment that perfectly explained the past 18 years of my life. The anxiety, short fuse, lack of focus, all of it. I sat in my room and cried, not because I was scared or mad, but because we had found a solution. I was nervous to start the medication at first because I thought I wouldn't like how I changed. In actuality, it helped me become calmer, feel more in control, and has had a positive impact on my personality. Being the best Hayley I can be has become a lot easier since my diagnosis. My family and I have seen a world of difference, both in my daily life and in the classroom as well. My grades have shot up, and with that, my confidence in school. I can stand and goal through a slower game without being distracted by stray thoughts or whatever's happening on the next field over. I feel more in control and I'm more aware of myself. Being the best you that you can be is not an easy task. There will always be someone who is taller, who's faster, or who just has something that you don't. There isn't anything wrong with that. Life isn't about being uniform, and we can't all be the same. If we were all the same, life would be boring. What would be the point of the Olympics if everyone ties for gold, or an election where every candidate wins? Why have auditions for a musical if everyone sounds the same? Everyone, no matter how confident they seem, struggles with individuality at one point or another. Being the best you that you can be will set you apart from your competition. During my 5th form year, I was in the recruiting process for field hockey, and there were a few times that I realized coaches were making decisions based off of our personalities. I went through the recruiting process in the middle of a global pandemic. All coaches could see was what we wanted them to see. Every mistake was easily edited out, and our videos were carefully crafted to make us look flawless. You wouldn't believe the amount of time that I sat in front of a screen patching clips together, shaving milliseconds off, so you wouldn't see the ball that went in or the stumble I had made while recovering. So how were coaches going to be able to find the right athlete for them within all of the hundreds of flawless videos that they were watching? You guessed it, individuality. In goalkeeping, everyone learns the same skill set. What makes each keeper different is style. Every athlete, no matter the sport or position, can let their personality show in their play. That is how coaches were weeding out recruits. The same thing applies to the admissions office at Hill. On paper, every applicant is perfect. Perfect scores, perfect extracurriculars, perfect essays. The thing that sets all of us apart is that everyone that is sitting here in this room, when they had their interview, they were themselves. They weren't what their parents saw, what perfect stats they had. There's a verse from the book of Galatians in the New Testament of the Bible that reads, "But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor." Chapter 6, verse 4. I like this verse because I think that there are times when we diminish our own successes because we're worried too much about the successes of others. As an athlete, you're told to work as a team, to be selfless, but there are points when you must be selfish. Confidence is all about you, how you view yourself, how you hold yourself, and it transfers to how others view you. If we diminish our own successes or become too selfless, we begin to lose sight of our achievements, no matter how big or small. Selfishness is not always a negative trait. We must focus on ourselves and what makes us unique. We try to bury our individuality and take on the personality of our neighbor. I think it's crazy, especially in an environment like Hill. There are about 540 students and change. We will never find another opportunity in our lives to express our individuality like the one that we've all been given now. Sure, Hill is extremely competitive, but isn't that even more of a reason to be the best you that you can be? Like I said before, if we all act the same, then there wouldn't be any achievements to boast about. This weekend, we're all being put to the test. Let's all try to focus on being the best versions of ourselves, regardless of what our peers are doing. No matter what happens in the classroom, on the field, or in your dorm, focus on the small achievements and allow yourselves to feel proud. Being the best you that you can be is far more powerful than being like your neighbor. Thank you.